call this meeting to order.
Then I had over, and then it started to be like.
Time for roll call. Council at large Cummins.
Here.
At large Spear.
Here.
Council Ward number 1 Leeper. Ward number 2 Anderson. Here. Ward number 3 McNeil. Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, the agenda. There are no modifications to the agenda. I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Spear with the first. And Cummins with the second.
Anderson?
Here.
Spear?
Yes.
Here.
McNeil?
Yes.
Cummins?
Yes.
Ooh. All right, so now we're going to
One
move
of
on to,
those.
with that approval, we'll move on to the communications section. There's no one scheduled. This will be unscheduled. If anyone would like to address the council, you can make your way to the podium. Seeing there are none, we'll close that portion of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda. And these are items that can be enacted with one motion, and they are the approval of the council minutes from both November 6th and November 18th. The library minutes from October 28th, library director's report from October of 19, development director's report from November of 19, liquor license renewal for Cedar Lanes, and the claims register, which includes claims paid under the current purchase policy. Do any of these need to be pulled out? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Spear with the first,
Second.
and Anderson with the second.
Spear?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Cummins?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
All right, so the next item is a public hearing, and it's a public hearing amending the current budget for the fiscal year ending in June 30th of 2020. I need a motion to open the public hearing. McNeil with the first,
Second.
and Cummins with the second.
McNeil?
Yes.
Cummins? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
All right, so the public hearing is open. Brian?
This is really more.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Melissa?
We have not had anyone contact us regarding the budget amendment. Just to go over, as I mentioned last meeting, the budget amendment is for adding changes for the FY19 street projects for the engineering costs and the expenses, adding the revenue and expenses into a capital projects fund for the wastewater treatment plant, some city hall repairs, and Heartland rental expenses.
All right. If there are no questions for Melissa or comments, we'll close this public hearing if there is a motion.
So moved.
Anderson with the first and Spear with the second.
McNeil?
Yes.
Cummins? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
All right, so we'll move on to old business, and the first one is ordinance number 573, and it is adding a new chapter 142, utility use of public right-of-way of the city code of ordinances. It would be the third and final reading. Brian, anything to add on that?
Just briefly, this again is the ordinance that is meant to give the city more control over the infrastructure owned by utility providers in a city right-of-way or public property or an easement. And hopefully that will help us better regulate those areas.
Have any questions or comments for Brian? All right, is there a motion to pass this third and final reading? McNeil with the first,
Second.
and Spear with the second.
Cummins?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
McNeil?
All right, so now down to number 2 on our old business, which is discussion and possible motion concerning the establishment of a Tipton incentive program. Brian?
Yeah, this goes back to a recent council meeting where we were using terms like slip or ERIC, which didn't rhyme. So I was trying to find something that was similar to drip and trip, so I suggested here TIP, which is Tipton incentive program, and this is for the areas of the city that are not already covered by drip or trip. Again, these are funded by $20,000 contributions from electric and from the gas utility out of their reserve funds, or if it's available in their budget, it would be from that, either one of those. As I mentioned at the last time that this came up, there's a suggestion in my synopsis, it's the last paragraph, where we had been approached about a possible housing project. This makes housing projects possible using these funds. We can't use TIF for it because their housing is different than this type of TIF that we're using, so the utility money could be used. But the idea here is if there's a housing project anywhere in the city that makes some sort of sense, that it's beyond typical maintenance. For example, we were approached about the demolition of a house and replacing it with a duplex on one lot and a duplex on a second empty lot. That might be something that the commission and the council might want to consider. It's not an easy get for that type of project, and again, I know that there was some concern about, well, are people, for example, are rental property owners going to want to use this to fix up rental property because it's part of their ongoing maintenance in their business? And no, it's not really meant for that. It's meant for a case-by-case use where the commission and council determine that there's some extenuating reason why it might be used in a housing project. So it's not automatic, it's not easy, but it can be considered. And then I also, along with the synopsis, I gave you an amended application form where the terms of drip and trip are taken out and substituted, calling it TIP grants. So if you would like to approve it, if you're ready, we would then make it publicly available.
Would you mind giving us an example of what the extenuating circumstances might be?
Well, in the example that I mentioned, if for example, if it isn't, it's not ordinary maintenance, and there's the possibility that it would expand the tax base or add to the tax base by demolishing a home that's in bad shape and replacing it with a couple of duplexes. That's not the typical project that you would see in a housing situation. It has, so that I would see personally as an extenuating circumstance where this type of fund would be considered, at least considered. But if it's for just home maintenance.
So yeah, it wouldn't be for like replacing of windows or new siding on a house.
Right, right.
Alright.
But would new I mean, I guess anytime I see improvements to businesses or housing in our community, that's an asset to our community. I mean, that's a good thing. So like siding is, I think, something that does improve.
Well, so would it have to reach a threshold like they do with the?
Well, we do have the revolving fund that can be used on owner-occupied housing. That's the 0.5%
Right.
fund.
Right.
But if we made it available, if we made grants available for siding anywhere, I think the 40,000 would be used up like
You're right,
like
you're
that.
right. And to be a grant for that, you know, they'd be standing alone down
Mhm.
Main Street.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any question? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I'd be ready to move forward with it.
Considering what the other programs have done for the city, if this is just an extenuation of that, it would be a good investment.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts? Then I'll ask for a motion, one way or the other.
I'll make a motion.
All right, Dean has made a motion to establish this TIP grant program,
One second.
and Spear with the second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
All right, so now on to new business, which is a resolution amending the current budget for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2020. Melissa, anything new to add?
No.
All right.
Unless anyone has any questions.
All right, if nobody has any questions for Melissa, then I'll ask for a motion on this. McNeil with the first,
Second?
and Spear with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
McNeil, Cummins,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
All right, number 2, which is a discussion and possible motion concerning a pay application number 6 to Sheets Design Build in the amount of $93,939.85. Brian?
Well, this is just a progress payment that was recommended by HBK. I don't really have anything else on
All right. Then are there any questions for Brian or anybody? Is there a motion? McNeil with the first,
Second?
oh, sorry. Spear with the second, sorry, Dean, I didn't see you.
McNeil, Cummins,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
All right, and then number 3, discussion and possible motion concerning ideas about the future use of the city's downtown green space lot. Brian?
it. Yeah. I'm bringing this up because we're getting back to a time of year in early 2020 where grant cycles are gonna be opening up again, both pre-application and full application. And one possibility that we might look at for a grant would be the green space if we can come up with a project that whoever the grantor is would see as a worthy project for them to place funds into. We tried last year on a grant, it was an AARP grant for the green space. We were trying to provide a covered area that had handicap picnic tables. It was on a concrete slab, and that wasn't funded. And we heard comments that, like from the chamber board, feeling that since the gazebo is there and isn't always in use, that maybe that kind of thing in the green space wouldn't be used very much. So, in the synopsis, there are some suggestions on possible uses, but I wondered if the council would want to take some sort of public input, either in writing or set a period of time at an upcoming council meeting to hear what ideas might be. It's a challenging site because it's only 25 feet wide, it's 142 feet long, so there aren't a lot of options for it. But it could be used as part of an overall strategy downtown. I don't see developing a use for the green space as just isolated to the green space. I see it as one piece of an overall strategy that goes up and down our downtown district. And, we have components that are there now. We have the Freedom Rock, we have the mural that was recently placed. We have brick renovations. We have building owners who have done some upper story apartment development that we're continuing to encourage. The chamber has programs for planters and the hay bales that have been popular. The council approved the ordinance for blade signs. It hasn't been used yet, but it's there. Another thing that might be useful is if one of the first things on the Hardacre, if the marquee could be restored and made functional, that's another type of decorative item for the downtown that would liven it up. Ross suggested a speaker system in the downtown for music or things like that, announcements. There are other cities that have done things with strings or of light or certain types of lighting. It isn't just limited to Christmas time. It can be done at different times of the year. So if you add to that the green space and find a compatible use that brings people to that site, then maybe it all fits together as part of the downtown strategy. And so this has different suggestions. I can go into them more if you want, but the idea here is to see if there are any suggestions out there that we ought to consider. I should add that we ran our first ad in the paper about taking input on the urban chicken ordinance, and one of the options was to send comments to our city hall. It's a general email address box, and as of today we haven't had any, so I don't know if people will respond to something like that, but it's a chance to, if you want to do that. Or if you have another use in mind, you don't have to have a hearing on it, you can just select it, but the idea here is to try to find something that we can start working on if the idea has grant potential.
We did that when we first tore down the building that was there. And we sent out in the utility papers a questionnaire of what to do with that. And there was a myriad of suggestions there of what to do. One suggestion too was that sculpture garden. We were in Boone this last summer, and they had a couple places like that where they converted into a sculpture garden, and one was very impressive, was taking old farm machinery and they stacked it as a tribute to agriculture, which something like that might. Another idea I remember from that survey was a fountain that is both a splash pad for playing and a decorative fountain in there. I don't think it looks bad with that tree in there, the Christmas tree. That fills some space up. There's not a lot of space there to work with.
Do you remember how long ago that survey was?
Was when I first got on the council. That was one of our first. No, I don't remember exactly. 100 years. Yeah. When I cleaned up greenhouse records, I think I threw that away.
Oh.
They're on the stone tablets.
Right. I like the idea of getting community input. However, that's disappointing that nobody has done so with the urban chicken thing. So, I don't know. You blast it on Facebook and I guarantee you'll get input. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think a public hearing is a bad idea. have to have some things that you put in there as suggestions, otherwise you're gonna get either a whole bunch of just different suggestions, or maybe none at all. I think people like to have something to pick from sometimes.
We could use the ones that are in this
Yeah,
write-up,
Right.
for example.
yeah, I think so.
I mean, they're quick to know what they don't like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, the other ones, besides that seated area, I tossed one out about a one-stall RV park with a dining patio. And then when that got some frowns, I tossed out pickleball courts. They would fit in that area, it would be tight, but it could fit two, and there could be a seated area in the middle. And we think that the tree that's there could be kept. So that would be one, and then there was Dean's idea about the sculpture garden, so we could put those in as examples, just to
That'd be
see.
a good idea.
And not just sculptures, like plantings. That would, you know,
Very possible, yeah.
a horticulturist would come in
Yeah.
and do it.
Or,
A retired horticulturist.
so, by what I'm hearing right now, it doesn't sound like there'll be a motion to act on it, on any of these. We're gonna get more public
Yeah.
input.
Right.
Okay.
I was, in this sample ad, I was suggesting having the hearing or the results of any input that came in at the council meeting on February 3rd, because I didn't want it to be the same meeting, January 20, where the input hearing for chickens is.
No, I agree.
Two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you might get chickens in the green space.
Alright, well then, is there a motion, then I guess it would be to table this and to, set the public hearing for February 3rd.
So moved.
Spear with the first,
Second,
and Cummins with the second.
Cummins,
yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Alright, then, we'll go to number 4, which is discussion and possible motion concerning an ultrasound unit.
Good
Mr.
evening.
Ratliff?
Good
Um,
evening.
Here, a couple, it's almost been 2 years now, we acquired a couple ultrasound units through the federal government to kind of spin up an ultrasound program. Long story short, we knew when we got them, they weren't designed for Tipton. They're a really good price, they taught us a lot, but they're not ready for the back of the ambulance. We've got $600 into the unit, to both of the units total, and we collected some offers from various biomedical companies to sell them. The best offer we got was $6,000 a unit, and that's if everything's perfect, they'll take them off our hands. If there's any differences with probe compatibilities or anything like that, they'd give us a reduced amount. I think this is a killer deal, to get $6,000 a unit for each of them, be able to turn around and put that money back into the right probes that we're looking for a future ultrasound program coming up.
So do they just come in and check it then, is that what they'll do?
No, we send them off to, I think the company's in Texas, and we're talking an ultrasound cart, I don't know, maybe about yay tall. And they check the laptops that they're attached to, and then the 3 probes that are attached to them, they have to verify that they're working and functioning correctly. And as long as everything's, which is in function correctly, is good, they'll do the full amount. I already know for a fact one piece isn't perfect, but there's no way of anybody giving us an accurate number without taking a look at
But
it.
it doesn't come back, I mean, even if they come down, it's not gonna come back to
We're
us,
not
right?
taking them back,
Okay.
we're gonna take the money. That would be my suggestion.
Alright. Any questions for Brad? Because it looks like this is worded a little backwards. Should be concerning the sale of an ultrasound unit instead of purchase.
So our goal is to take the revenue generated from this and put it right back into it, so the taxpayer would never have an expense for this type of a program.
So that changes the verbiage. Is there any questions or comments for Brad? Is there a motion one way or the other? McNeil was the first to sell the units, Yep.
Second.
and Cummins was the second.
Anderson?
Yeah.
Spear?
Yes.
McNeil? Cummins?
Yes.
Alright, so that ends the new business for the evening, and now we'll move, well, oh, I think it'll be under department heads. Gotcha. Alright, come on up, Floyd. Yeah, sorry, I was under the impression it would be under department heads, but you're gonna be ahead of that.
Good evening.
Thank you, Brad.
Did you bring yours?
If you've got it, if you don't have enough.
What you doing? What you doing?
Cobblestone. Huh? Yeah, a little bit.
That one.
Okay, this was kind of a last minute deal, and that's not really how I like to do this, but, we had the overhead crane inspected, because we've been having trouble with it when you roll it down on the beams. It'll get cockeyed, and then you have to pull the thing back, and then try to get this thing so that it'll roll and traverse correctly when you're hauling heavy parts, and it makes it pretty hard to do. So what started out as a simple inspection to tell me what I needed to replace turned into, we can't use the south end of it, where we go to unload barrels or get barrels of oil, bring them into the power plant. We can't lift the heads off that engine and put them down there on pallets like we've been doing. So what happened was what I wasn't expecting, but they said that somebody has been welding on that, and they added an addition onto it, and that's not how it's supposed to be done. It's supposed to be done a certain way, and they ruined the integrity of the beams. So this is the only place I could find in the area that would do this type of work, and they did the inspection, and we thought we'd just end up replacing the trolley, but it's more than that. So the material for it is $3,338. The manual trolley was the least expensive part of the whole thing, which was what we all thought, or what we thought was the only thing wrong with it. That was $722. The installation is about $7,500. And then the equipment is $1,715, so the total's $13,259. And the only reason why I'm even bringing it up tonight is to just kind of get an idea how everybody feels. Because it takes 5 to 6 weeks to get the material. And right now, we've got engine number 3 tore apart. And if I want to ship the heads off to get them checked, we don't have any way to do it. I can't expect an employee to use something that we have been told that is unsafe. So, that's why I brought this. I want to kind of get a consensus when we bring it back to the council on the 16th, if you would approve it.
Well, it's unsafe.
I mean,
It's gonna be fixed.
right, we can use it, but we have to stop just shy of going into the bay because of the way that it's been modified.
Enhanced.
Yeah, enhanced. So, he told Tanya that he wouldn't trust it, and, and we have, but we probably shouldn't have done, but I didn't know any better. I don't know anything about cranes.
I mean, do you have it in your budget? Or how would we?
No, this is a surprise.
Okay.
It wasn't planned for in its budget, but you have funding
Yeah,
in your budget.
we can,
Right now you do. We may have to, as the year goes on, we may have to do an amendment for future purchases at that point. Right now, you have the funding, but this wasn't a planned expense.
yeah, wasn't something I planned on. I mean, I was totally, ignorance is bliss, because I didn't know there was anything seriously wrong with it. All I thought was the trolley was bad, and that's why the thing kept getting cockeyed on us. That's the only thing I thought. And then when I come back from the seminar and Tanya talks to me the next day, I'm just like, she goes, we're not supposed to use it past this certain point. I'm like, well, why? What's the matter with it? She says, he says it's unsafe. So, not something I expected to do.
Well, I don't want our guys using unsafe equipment.
You need it for number 3, don't you?
Yeah, we'll need it for number 3, regardless of what we do with it. Because like, let's say we start parking that engine out, I'm gonna have to slide all that stuff, get it out in that bay, so I would have to have it for that, unless you wanted to cut it up in small enough pieces you could carry it. That takes too long. But, we're still in the process of figuring out what we're gonna do exactly when I come to the council on that, so.
A motion to fix it.
Sounds like you have support from McNeil. Yeah. You have my support.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like it,
Yep.
yeah. It's an unfortunate expense, but it sounds like it has to be done.
Yeah, it's not something I wanted to spend money on.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll bring it back, yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring it back on the 16th for formal approval. Okay, all right, thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, Floyd.
Thank you.
Hey Floyd?
Yeah.
Was that your own topic?
It better be.
Yeah.
4 minutes over.
Pardon me?
Did you want to talk about engine 3?
Well, I'm really not,
Ready?
I really kind of want to write something up so they can see the numbers and stuff.
Okay.
If you're talking about the traffic signal too, is that the other thing you're thinking?
No, I was thinking of engine 3.
Okay, well, you hold up your finger 3, so I thought maybe there were 3 items, but we talked earlier about, okay, we talked earlier, about the traffic signal too, so, okay.
All right, so now that will conclude the new business area, and now we'll move down to the reports. I do not have anything to report this week. Council, committees, city manager.
I just want to, remind everybody about Amy's email about goal-setting dates. It looks like of the 3 that she gave, January 23rd, which is a Thursday, is the only viable one. So if you know right now if it'll work or not work, we could settle it now, but if you want to look at your calendars and respond to Amy, we can also do that.
Good for me.
There you go. Tim's a go.
Yep.
Happy to. I am as well. Dean's not a good test.
And Ron
Oh, yeah.
already said.
I guess that one
Pam,
doesn't
you don't
matter.
matter.
I don't matter. I'm a lame duck. Happy to be a lame duck.
You're a what?
That's 6.
Lame duck.
The lame duck?
Lame.
All right, so that brings us down, if there, department head?
One
Yeah.
thing real quick, 30 seconds. The weather never cooperates with the chamber, as we know, last Saturday, so we had to cancel Parade of Lights and lighting of the community Christmas tree. and we were trying to juggle that night as well, but today the decision was that we are gonna light the tree tonight. The tree needs to be lit, so after the council meeting, the mayor will be lighting our community Christmas tree. And then on the 14th, to kind of coordinate with Tour of Lights, we're gonna have the Parade of Lights. And I will get back to the council about what you will be writing. I'm thinking the parade is gonna, Santa Claus comes at 5 o'clock anyway, so we're trying to get everything to move with Santa that night, that the parade will be behind Santa and the trolleys behind Santa that night. But everything is a little bit every which way right now, but we are trying to get all the kinks worked out.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, so now we will move down to adjournment. Anderson with the first,
Second?
and Cummins with the second.
Spear.
Yes.
McNeil. Cummins.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.